Sometimes life gives you a moment so small that most people would walk right past it. A moment that looks ordinary, forgettable. But if you choose to stop, if you choose kindness, that moment can change lives forever. This story begins on a cold afternoon in a quiet neighborhood bakery with two little girls holding hands and a single dad who had almost nothing left to give. Before we begin, take a second to support the channel. If stories like this move your heart, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. It truly helps the channel grow. You're watching Your Channel Name, where real stories remind us that kindness still exists. Now, let me tell you what happened. Mark Wilson had learned how to count every dollar. After his wife passed away 2 years earlier, life became a daily balancing act between grief and survival. He was 36, a single father, and raising his 8-year-old son, Ethan, on one modest income. Mark worked early mornings at a warehouse and late nights driving for delivery apps. Sleep was a luxury. Peace was rare. That afternoon, Mark stopped by the neighborhood bakery after work. It wasn't a treat, it was a necessity. Ethan's school lunch account was empty, and Mark wanted to stretch the week with a loaf of bread and some peanut butter. He checked his wallet twice before opening the door. Just enough cash. Barely. The bakery smelled warm and comforting, like a place where problems didn't exist. Golden loaves lined the shelves. The bell above the door chimed as Mark stepped inside. He nodded politely at the woman behind the counter and walked toward the bread. That's when he heard a small, shaky voice. "Excuse me, ma'am. Can we pay later?" Mark turned. Standing near the counter were two little girls. Twins. They couldn't have been more than 7 years old. They wore thin jackets that looked too light for the cold. Their shoes were worn at the toes, and their hair was tied into uneven ponytails, as if they had done it themselves. One of the girls clutched a small brown bag with a single loaf of bread inside. The other held a few coins in her open palm, counting them again and again, hoping they would magically become more. The woman behind the counter sighed softly, not angry, just tired. "I'm sorry, sweethearts," she said gently. "I can't let you take it without paying." The girls' shoulders slumped. One of them whispered, "It's for our grandma. She hasn't eaten today." Mark felt something tighten in his chest. He looked away, telling himself it wasn't his business. He had his own problems, his own child to feed. He reached into his pocket and wrapped his fingers around the cash. That money already had a purpose. But the girls didn't leave. They stepped aside, whispering to each other. Mark heard the word hungry and tomorrow. One of the twins wiped her nose with her sleeve. The other tried to be brave, standing a little taller, like she was the big sister even though they were the same age. Mark's mind went back years, to hospital hallways, to nights when Ethan asked when mommy was coming home, to moments when strangers showed up with casseroles, grocery cards, and quiet kindness that kept them going. He remembered how those small acts felt like lifelines. "Sir," the cashier said, "you're next." Mark walked to the counter. He placed his bread down, then paused. His heart was racing. He glanced at the girls again. "How much is theirs?" he asked. The cashier blinked. $4. Mark looked at the cash in his hand. He had exactly $7. He took a deep breath. "I'll take theirs too," he said. The twins froze. Their eyes grew wide as Mark handed over the money. The cashier smiled softly and rang it up. She added a small bag of rolls and slid it across the counter toward the girls. "On the house," she said quietly. The twins stared at Mark like he was a superhero. "Thank you," one whispered. "No, thank you," the other said, her voice shaking. "Our grandma, she'll be so happy." Mark knelt down. He was at eye level with them. "What are your names?" "I'm Lily," said one. "And I'm Lucy," said the other. "Well, Lily and Lucy," Mark said, forcing a smile even as his chest ached. "Make sure you get home safe, okay?" They nodded hard, clutching the bag like it was treasure. As they left, Mark felt the weight of what he had done sink in. He had just given away money meant for his son's food. His stomach tightened with worry. He picked up his single loaf of bread and walked outside. The cold hit him immediately. For a moment, regret crept in. He wondered how he would explain this to Ethan, how he would make it through the week. Then he heard footsteps behind him. "Sir!" Mark turned around. The twins were back, breathless. "Our grandma wants to thank you," Lucy said. "She's right there." Across the street, sitting on a bus stop bench, was an elderly woman wrapped in a faded coat. Her face was thin, tired, but kind. She slowly stood as Mark approached. "You fed us today," the woman said, her voice trembling. "You didn't have to do that." Mark shrugged, suddenly embarrassed. Kids shouldn't have to beg for bread. The woman reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I don't have money," she said, "but I have this." It was a handwritten flyer. "I clean houses," it read. "Honest work, low cost." The woman smiled sadly. "I used to work full-time, but my health, it's not good anymore. My daughter passed last year. These girls are all I have." Mark swallowed hard. "My wife passed too," he said quietly. "I'm raising my son alone." The woman's eyes filled with tears. In that moment, something shifted. Two broken families stood together, connected by loss and kindness. "I could use help around the house," Mark said slowly. "And maybe with childcare sometimes." The woman's face lit up. "I can cook, I can clean, I can help." That week, everything changed. The twins started coming over after school. Ethan finally had someone to laugh with again. The house felt warmer, louder, alive. The grandmother cooked. Meals like Mark hadn't tasted in years. Simple food. Comfort food. The kind that fills more than your stomach. Mark paid her what he could. She paid him back in care, love, and stability. Word spread in the neighborhood. Someone shared the story online after seeing Mark with the kids at the park. Soon, neighbors started reaching out. Extra groceries appeared on the porch. A better job opportunity came through a friend of a friend. Kindness multiplied. Months later, Mark stood in that same bakery, this time buying treats for 4 kids instead of 1. Lily and Lucy ran ahead, laughing. Ethan chased after them. The cashier smiled. "Looks like things turned around." Mark nodded. They did. He looked around the bakery, remembering that moment, that choice, that fear, all because he decided to stop and care. Sometimes kindness costs you something in the moment. Sometimes it feels risky. Sometimes it feels impossible. But what you gain can be so much greater. A family. Hope. A reminder that you are not alone. If you ever wonder whether your kindness matters, remember this story. Remember the twins with the bread. Remember the single dad who almost walked away. And remember that one small act can change more than one life. Because kindness doesn't just fill empty hands. It fills empty hearts. And when you choose it, the world becomes a little warmer for everyone.